Another thing that you need winds that are favorable so that the storm can preserve itself. If you have winds that are blowing from different directions at different altitudes, for example, then the storm can't really maintain itself.
These days, satellite technology can warn travelers inside the triangle of an approaching hurricane. Along with better navigational systems, this may explain why there have been fewer disappearances as the years have gone on. But hurricanes cannot provide the whole answer. The hurricane season only lasts for 6 months, from June to November, and many disappearances have happened outside that time. Other natural phenomena could be part of the problem. Waterspouts, tornadoes at sea, are common off the coasts of southern Florida, and they too can be deadly. This storm over Miami evolved from a tornado into a waterspout with winds of up to 175 kilometers per hour.
Down here in South Florida, we can get them quite often. It's a very fascinating phenomenon. You can often get several waterspouts all in a row that you can watch. They probably last for 5 or 10 minutes or so.
Waterspouts can appear without warning.
I know that there's some severe weather out there that can affect ships. You can have a waterspout out there. Say you had some people inside eating lunch. Well, you can get a column of air spinning and it comes down right over them and they wouldn't even know it.
But although they are dangerous and unpredictable, waterspouts are too weak to sink big ships or bring down high-flying aircraft. So what about more familiar weather events like thunderstorms? Could they have contributed to the myth of the Bermuda Triangle? Thunderstorms evolve when warm, humid air rises to meet cooler air. Regions like the Bermuda Triangle, from which warmed air perpetually rises, are perfect incubators. At sea, thunderstorms form rapidly, unleashing their full destructive power onto unsuspecting planes and ships. And with thunderstorms comes lightning, a constant threat in this part of the world. Dave Ease has been a dive boat captain for Stewart Cove Diving in Nassau for 14 years. He dives the waters of the Bermuda Triangle almost every day.
We came across a lightning storm. We had to pass pretty close to it, and you could feel every time the lightning strike or you hear the thunder, you just know to let go of the steering wheel, because if you held on to it, you'll feel a little jolt. And after a little bit of time, you could hear the antenna sound like a bunch of hornets in it, just buzzing. That's just because of the static electricity building up in it.
Lightning can be disorientating, even deadly. But larger vessels and planes are usually protected and could ride out a single strike. Like waterspouts and thunderstorms, lightning appears to offer no more than a partial explanation of the myth. And despite all such logical explanations, there is one disappearance that has arguably done more than any other to fuel the myth of the Bermuda Triangle. On a fine day at the end of the Second World War, 5 naval aircraft carrying 14 young airmen vanished without a trace. The disappearance of US Navy Flight 19 captured the public imagination as the greatest of all Bermuda Triangle mysteries. The loss of so many men was all the more tragic because it happened just months after the end of the war. These photographs show the crew of Flight 19. They would become the victims of one of America's greatest mysteries, bringing international attention to the myth of the Bermuda Triangle. Wild and weird legends have developed around Flight 19 since its disappearance. But what are the facts? Perhaps no one knows more about the infamous tragedy than Bermuda Triangle expert, enthusiast and author Jean Coussard.
In terms of the triangle, I consider myself the person who bothered to write the biography on it. All the mysteries about it, the facts instead of the fiction, instead of the legend, instead of the hearsay.
Coussard has examined all the known historical records about Flight 19 and listened to first-hand accounts of witnesses from the time. Official records reveal that instrument failure was the first sign of trouble for Flight 19. But what really happened? And if we retrace the steps of the flight, could we learn anything new? For perhaps the first time, we will fly the exact planned route of the doomed Flight 19 in an authentic World War II Avenger aircraft. Under the leadership of experienced pilot Charles Taylor, Flight 19 originally took off from what is now Fort Lauderdale International Airport. The planes, 4 of them carrying a crew of 3, and one with just 2 aviators on board, were to fly a 4-sided route from Fort Lauderdale to Bimini, Great Harbor Cay, the island of Grand Bahama, and then back to base. The weather was good, and the journey seemed simple. The first leg was to take them towards Bimini, around 90 kilometers away from their Fort Lauderdale base, with some torpedo practice over Chicken and Hen Shoal en route. The plan shows them continuing east on a compass heading of 91 degrees for 107 kilometers. Then they were supposed to turn north-northwest for 117 kilometers. The final turn to the left would have put them on a direct course for their Fort Lauderdale home base. Records show that they made the first 3 legs of their journey, but they never made the final leg. They lost contact at 7:04 p.m., never to be heard from again. No remains were ever found. It was a tragic journey for the crewmen of Flight 19 and the friends and loved ones they left behind. Obie O'Brien, an ex-Navy pilot war hero who signed up the year after the disaster, will pilot our Avenger bomber, a plane identical to those of Flight 19.
In 1950, I was flying the Corsair in a Corsair squadron, and we went to Korea on the USS Boxer. I flew 40-some missions, and during that time, I was awarded the Air Medal.
Obie is from the same generation as the young and dedicated servicemen of Flight 19, who would have been grateful to have survived the dangers of the Second World War. To make our flight truly authentic, the plane will navigate using the same basic method as would have been used by Flight 19, steering by compass and watching the islands below. We take off from the same Fort Lauderdale runway as Flight 19, and at the same time of day, 2:10 in the afternoon, although weather conditions for us are slightly better. 60 years earlier on Flight 19, the first sign of trouble came when Lieutenant Charles Taylor radioed that he was uncertain of his position. Jim Ward was a radio operator on a nearby naval ship that day and heard the radio transmissions of the fateful flight.
We heard the flight leader come in and call the tower and ask them if they would put their radar on and get a fix on him because he wasn't quite sure where he was.
It appears that Taylor believed he was over the Florida Keys, an island chain stretching 160 kilometers into the Gulf of Mexico. It's more likely that he was in fact almost 320 kilometers northeast.
So the tower came back in about 15-20 minutes and said, "We can't find you on the radar. Do you have any idea where you are?" He says, "Well, I think I've seen some islands." He said, "Well, can you identify the islands?"
Exact transcripts of his radio messages reveal that Taylor was experiencing problems.
Both my compasses are out, and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm on the land, but it's broken. I'm sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down, and I don't know how to get to Fort Lauderdale.